It's not enough anymore for folks to say, like, yes, we believe or support MMIWG2S without putting your money where your mouth is.
Tonight, a funding announcement made in honor of Tina Fontaine's legacy.
It lets people outside the Métis homeland know who we are, where we come from.
A Winnipeg artist is on a mission to immortalize Métis history through his paintings.
This was all worth it, and it's so beautiful. Yeah, so proud to be a part of this.
Celebrating Barbie's 65th anniversary with an Indigenous flair. Hello and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Sav Jonesa. The federal government is reversing its decision to cap spending on the search for unmarked graves across the country. In July, Crown Indigenous Services announced that communities would be limited to $500,000. Shortly after, a number of communities and organizations came forward and pushed back against the decision. In a news release on Friday, Canada said that after consultations, it admits that it made a mistake and it was reversing the cap. Minister Gary Anand-Sangari said after engaging with Indigenous leaders and communities, we have heard your concerns loud and clear. In response to what we heard, we are ensuring greater flexibility in the residential schools Missing Children Community Support Fund, including lifting the $500,000 limit on funding levels. And things aren't looking good for the company at the center of what some are calling an environmental disaster at a Yukon mine site. Now the company, Victoria Gold, has been placed into a receivership. Here's Sarah Connors with more details.
On Wednesday, the Ontario Supreme Court granted Yukon government's application to place mining company Victoria Gold into a receivership. Government officials say it's the best course of action to remediate the company's Eagle Gold mine site.
This legal action gives us a pathway to use the assets of the company responsible for the environmental damage to pay for the costs of addressing that damage.
The mine is located on the traditional territory of the First Nation of Nacho-Nayakdun. In June, the mine's heap leach facility experienced an equipment failure, causing cyanide-laced ore and other chemicals to be released into the surrounding environment. The company has since failed to carry out some of the territory's mining inspectors' directions and address environmental and safety concerns, prompting the government to file the receivership. The mine's receiver, PricewaterhouseCoopers, will now take control of the company's assets, including the mine.
The receivership provides the framework and the opportunity we need to advance the critical work that must be done immediately in terms of environmental protection and remediation.
Facing mounting financial pressures, CEO John McConnell told the CBC on Thursday the company's board has stepped down. But the government isn't calling it quits on the mine site. That's because mining plays a major part in the territory's economy.
We still hold out hope that mining can occur at this site, that there can be mitigation to return the site to a viable mine.
Officials say they don't yet know when remediation work will be completed. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Tomorrow marks 10 years since the discovery of Tina Fontaine's body in the Red River near downtown Winnipeg. The 15-year-old First Nations girl was in the care of Child and Family Services at the time of her murder. Fontaine was missing for more than a week before she was found in the water, wrapped in a duvet cover and weighted down with rocks. Her death remains an open case. The only man charged in her murder was later acquitted by jury due to insufficient evidence. Events commemorating her life have and continue to take place throughout this week. A memorial walk will be held tomorrow morning in Fontaine's home community of Saugeen Anishinaabe Nation, 120 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg, where Fontaine is laid to rest next to her father. And as part of the 10-year anniversary, a funding announcement was made for a North End drop-in center that's named in honor of Tina Fontaine's legacy. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
Tina, in many respects, is representative of all MMIWG2S.
On the eve of when Tina Fontaine's remains were pulled from the Red River, Nahanni Fontaine, Manitoba's Minister of Families and Gender Equity, announced $986,000 in funding for Tina's Safe Haven, a 24-hour drop-in center for at-risk youth.
It's not enough anymore for folks to say like, yes, we believe or support MMIWG2S without putting your money where your mouth is.
It's a joint effort between the federal and provincial governments that aims to end gender-based violence. Shanley Scott is the executive director of Nadinawa Maganug Endawad, the organization that runs Tina's Safe Haven. Scott says the funds will go toward holistic programming.
As Indigenous people is leading from an Indigenous perspective, it means that we can expand those very services and supports, including cultural workers, expanding the mental wellness supports that are being provided. And of course, the biggest excitement is to expand the primary healthcare services that are available to our young people.
Amber LaPlante, a member of Little Saskatchewan, grew up in the city's north end. Like many others here, LaPlante reflects on losing Tina.
This little girl, I think, shook a nation when we all heard about the news.
LaPlante is also thinking of the others since Tina that were also found in the nearby Red River, including Jana Williams in the spring of 2021.
I grew up with her. We're part of the same family, not like blood related, but the same hood family that I would consider my relatives. And to find out that what had happened to her, and again in the Red River, near that water, it was devastating. And to also learn that she was expecting at the same time.
As a survivor of these streets herself, she knows the additional supports to help youth at risk can make a difference. Something echoed by many here as they hope for a day where the brutal killings of Indigenous women and girls are no more.
When one is taken, it affects each and every one that walks in this creation among our relatives.
Losses such as Tina's, where the emotions that many went through on the day she was found are still felt a decade later. T.R. Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks for that, TR. A coroner's inquest into the death of an Indigenous woman from the Kingfisher Lake First Nation in Northern Ontario has concluded. 31-year-old Ruthin Queequish died on April 1st, 2017 from ketoacidosis, a diabetes complication. This happened after repeated visits to the local nursing station. The inquiry produced a total of 42 recommendations, such as developing a cohesive approach to the management of lab test results, facilitating virtual medicine, and prioritizing the hiring of nurses with experience working in remote First Nation communities. An emotional Jordan Queequish, the brother of the deceased, told the inquiry as it closed that all people should have access to good health care. Another challenging wildfire season is currently underway across Turtle Island. In response to the growing concerns, Saskatchewan leaders are investing in 2 programs to prevent and manage wildfires over the next 5 years. As evacuations affect northern Saskatchewan communities, Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation and the Prince Albert Grand Council are calling for immediate help for those affected. Video journalist Rachel May has more.
It really upset me a little bit when they brought in firefighters into Canada from overseas, and we had thousands of our own firefighters on reserves across Canada ready to work. And there's something wrong with that picture.
On Wednesday, Natural Resources Canada announced that Jonathan Wilkinson, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, and Paul Merriman, Minister of Corrections, Policing and Public Safety for Saskatchewan, are making a joint investment of $44.7 million into 2 programs to manage and prevent future wildfires over the next 5 years. The Fighting and Managing Wildfires in a Changing Climate program covers 50% of specialized wildfire gear costs, while the Resilient Communities through Fire Smart program will boost neighborhood resilience and minimize impacts. Chief Peter Beattie of Peter Ballantyne Cree Nation says northern communities have been using the Fire Smart program for quite a while.
I know it's a cost-saving measure to let fires burn, and then put in a few crews and say you're actioning the fire. You may be actioning it, but not properly.
The Prince Albert Grand Council Grand Chief Brian Hardlott says policies that prioritize money over land protection need to end.
With the provincial government, they said they need to look at the budget also and put more resources into the fires because of the climate change, right? You know, so again, I'll say again that let it burn policy must be abandoned.
When it comes to the current wildfire situation, Hardlott says he doesn't want to hear the words monitoring and managing anymore.
We want to hear that there's boots on the ground, you know, or do you want can you get some firefight? Can you get some type 3 firefighters from the community? Get them ready. That's what we want to hear. We want boots on the ground.
Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Coming up after the break, Métis artist J.D. Hawk is preserving Métis community figures through oil paintings. Stick around. Welcome back. Winnipeg artist J.D. Hawk is on a mission to immortalize Métis history through his paintings. A selection of his works are on display at the oldest home in Winnipeg. Here's APTN's intern Kieran Aho with more.
Here at the Seven Oaks House Museum in Winnipeg, prominent Métis artist J.D. Hawk has opened up his new exhibit titled Hiding in Plain Sight. It features a selection of Hawk's portraits.
I wanted anybody that I respected and knew who was Métis to tell their story through my paintings. So you'll go through the museum and you'll see some of these portraits. That's exactly what it is. It's a visual record of history of a Métis person, where they came from and where their family came from. And to me, that was really important to do.
For the summer, Hawk has lent the museum 6 of his original oil paintings. The chosen works document his heritage and the resilience of the Métis people.
It lets people outside the Métis homeland know who we are, where we come from, not just the hardships, but also that we stuck together as a family and community.
With commissions from organizations such as the Manitoba Métis Federation and the Royal Canadian Mint, Hawk has come a long way, but it hasn't always been easy for Hawk, as for much of his life, he has experienced homelessness.
I was going through a depression, and I didn't know what depression was. I had no idea what it was.
For most of his life, Hawk has practiced art as a hobby, but his creative pursuits were interrupted by periods of financial instability.
There was times where I ended up losing everything or partial stuff, and so it set me back. I'd move, I'd lose stuff, be set back, and then eventually I lost all my art stuff, and I never wanted to paint again because that was the one thing that was truly me. I didn't want to do it again. I was just so heartbroken of always losing my stuff.
But in his time of need, he found inspiration in the work of another. While traveling through Nova Scotia, Hawk came across the work of Maud Lewis, whose paintings depicted subjects of joy despite her difficult life.
And so that struck me is that, you know, I have this gift to paint people, portraits, things that I see, very visual, that it'd be selfish of me just to quit. That when I return back to Winnipeg, I should start up again. And so that's what happened. I started back up again because of that inspiration. And from there, it just skyrocketed.
Since moving back to Winnipeg, Hawk has found purpose through his paintings, honoring the Métis community.
It feels so good to know that this is who I am, and this is the community that I belong to. They accept me as part of their community. They've shown nothing but kindness and love towards me. And that's probably why I do paint what I paint. Like, I want to give back somehow.
He tells us about one of his paintings, which he found symbolizes his journey.
There's this one where I have a picture of a horse, and he's kind of looking back. And I have him purposely looking back because it tells my story, where I went through hardships, I went through the homelessness. And so this horse represents that you can look back to see how far you've come. And that is a happy moment, to look back, wow, did I come from far away and now I'm here. I've gotten to a better place, and I'm so happy for that.
J.D. Hawk's Hiding in Plain Sight exhibit is open at the Seven Oaks House Museum until the 31st of August. Kieran Aho, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A documentary about an investigation into a residential school turns personal for the director, Julian Brave Noisecat. APTN's Angel Moore has this report and a warning to some viewers. Some details in this story may be disturbing.
I felt dirty as an Indian all my life in residential school.
Look at that. It's all names.
This is a scene from the documentary called Sugarcane, produced by Julian Brave Noisecat of the Secwepemc Nation in British Columbia. The feature documentary is an investigation into the horrors inflicted on the children of the St. Joseph's Mission Residential School, including Noisecat's family and notably his father's survival.
And so I think that this documentary was really about figuring out what the story was for him, myself, and my family. And also it's about what happens when, we finally break these silences that our families have kept in order to survive across so many decades.
Operated from 1886 to 1981 by the Missionary Oblates of Mary Immaculate near Williams Lake First Nation, also referred to as Sugarcane. Testimonies from survivors include babies fathered by priests burned in the incinerator. Noisecat discovered his father was born at the mission.
And my own father actually was the only known survivor of that pattern of infanticide at St. Joseph's Mission. It's such a heavy reality to grapple with, but at the same time, I know that he's not the only one.
Co-producer Emily Cassie has worked with Noisecat over the years and was inspired to document the investigation at St. Joseph's Mission.
So I'm an investigative journalist and filmmaker, and I've covered human rights abuses and conflicts all over the world. But I'm also Canadian, and I had never turned my lens on my own country. So when the news of potential unmarked graves broke in May of 2021, I felt gut pulled to the story. And the first thing I did was text Julian.
Sugarcane portrays a community's survival and healing, breaking intergenerational trauma.
You know, I just hope that this documentary helps encourage other Native people and descendants of survivors to, if they have the opportunity still to talk to those people, to have those kinds of conversations, you know, because this history, this essential part of our story, this part of our story that's about how we survived a genocide, is going to slip from living memory very soon.
Sugarcane is playing in theaters across the country. The National Residential School Crisis Line is 1-866-925-4419. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabukduk, also known as Halifax.
Thanks for that, Angel. You might know her best from your childhood, but Mattel's Barbie doll is turning 65 years old this year. To celebrate, Mattel is collaborating with an Indigenous makeup brand. That's after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. At the aptly named Miracle Beach in Black Creek, British Columbia, Shirley Curtis captured this photo of an orange sunset gleaming over the water. Thank you for sharing, Shirley. Wherever you are this weekend, snap a photo and email it to share@aptn.ca, and you could be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Let's see what tomorrow has in store for us. It'll be 21 in rain in St. John's, 26 in sun in Charlottetown, 22 in rain in Cartwright, and 24 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Be 27 in rain in Quebec City, 29 in rain in Montreal. Toronto will be 27 in rain and 25 in rain in London. Timmins will be a rainy 23 and 22 in rain in Wawa. Puckatawagan will be 20 and 24 in God's Lake. Winnipeg will be 26 and 25 in Barons River. Regina will be a rainy 26 and 24 in rain in Saskatoon. Stony Rapids will be 18 and 23 in Buffalo Narrows. It's rainy in northern Alberta, 18 in Fort McMurray and 23 in High Level. 22 in Calgary, Red Deer and Edmonton. 24 and some sun in Vancouver and 30 in Kamloops. Lots of sun and 25 in Fort Nelson, 21 in Prince George. 22 in Mayo, 23 in Whitehorse. It will be 19 in Yellowknife and 21 in rain in Norman Wells. Colville Lake will be 19 and 14 in Sax Harbor. Chesterfield will be 11 and 18 in Baker Lake. Sunny and 14 in Iqaluit, 7 in Resolute. The world-renowned fashion icon, Barbie, was the subject of a hit movie last year. Now, 5 female-led Canadian companies have collaborated to design 8 different fashion looks and over 100 products to celebrate Barbie's 65th anniversary. Among the designers is the Indigenous owner of the cosmetics brand Cheekbone Beauty. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
It took a lot of prep to get there, but this is some of the behind the scenes this week in Toronto at a Barbie event. It was a big deal for Jen Harper of Cheekbone Beauty.
On Wednesday night when we're at the event and you've seen it, it's just all now live and it has come to life. It was really a magical experience because of all the hard work that you're in the background. And then when you see it laid out in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh, this was all worth it. And it's so beautiful. Yeah, so proud to be a part of this.
Harper founded Cheekbone Beauty 9 years ago as a way to include Indigenous people and to feel represented in the beauty industry. For this new endeavor called Barbie Through the Decades, out of the 5 female-led companies, Harper's focus was to create Barbie's makeup over the years. So she created a new limited edition Barbie, Power Pink Pencils Trio.
It's 5 Canadian women-led brands that came together and put together a collection about each decade. So Cheekbone Beauty was the lead makeup brand, obviously, for every decade. And starting in 1959, when original Barbie was born, right through to the 90s. And so it's been incredible to be a part of that and see all of these brands that are led by women in Canada.
She says it meant a lot to be there personally as well.
Yes. So as a little Ojibwe girl, my brown skin and my dark hair, I obviously growing up in the 80s and did not see, I think, a lot of Barbies that look like me for sure, but was obsessed with all the Barbies that existed.
Harper says she's reached out to Mattel about creating an Indigenous Barbie that sold every day and not some special edition.
If you look back, there's a lot of Native American Barbies that popped up, but I was like, we need one that just exists, like that's there for our community to be able to see themselves all the time. And so they've entertained those conversations for years. And then when this project came about, it feels very special. And then I even brought Ashley Cullingbull as my +1 to the dinner on Wednesday because she is, to me, like the epitome of what an Indigenous Barbie should look like.
Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
That's all the time we have for this episode of APTN National News this beautiful Friday evening. I hope you enjoy the stories our reporters brought to you today. If you're looking for more news, please visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Sav Jonesa, and from all of us here at APTN, thank you so much for joining us. Take care.